It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
All right, here we go. Get back to work, will ya? I know. Had a couple weeks here where got some long weekends buried in. Now it's the tough days of January. It's all right. You can handle it. I know you can. You are listening to the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life, Jill on Money. My name is Jill Schlesinger. Mark Talercio is our producer. He's running everything. And he encourages you, because I don't, no, I do too, to head over to our new website, jillonmoney.com. Same address, new look. Mark just told me that we put the website up with a huge typo on the front door that none of us seem to catch. Just shows you that you can often read things the way you think they should be as opposed to the way they are. So shame on us. And thank you so much to the person who was kind enough to flag it. So anyway, if you find any other mistakes, can you tell us, please? Go to jillonmoney.com. Let's start the program with a call. It's Tom. He's on the line from Dover, New Hampshire. Hey, Tom, welcome to the program. What can I do for you?
Hey, Jill. How you doing today?
Great. What's up?
I just, for some backstory, I have been pretty much in the past year, I've kind of trying to make my financials back in order. Over a year ago, I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I'm trying to go on like a three-pronged thing to try and get to where I want to be in life. And I was just wondering if that's the best idea or if I should just focus on one thing at a time.
Well, what are your... let's start by doing this. First, tell us about yourself. Then tell us what the three prongs are, and we'll see if you're looking like on track.
All right. So I'm 25. I just started a full-time gig. I make $50K a year now, and I get full pension, all that stuff when I retire. So my plan right now is I'm trying to save for retirement. Mm-hmm. We offer a 401k through my company, and I've been trying to put 25% in right now with a 5% match.
Wow.
And so that's my one prong. And then my other prong is I'm trying to pay down all of my consumer debt that I had generated when I was younger.
Okay, wait, so wait a second. On the debt, what do you have? What's out there?
I have a car payment right now, and I also have about $10,000 in credit card debt.
What's the interest rate on the credit cards, and what's the interest rate on the car loan?
The car is about 5.9, and the credit cards are 12.6.
Okay, all right. And any student loans?
No, I just paid those off. That was actually my first thing I actually started with.
Okay. And
I actually got out of those.
So save for retirement, pay down debt, and what's the third prong that you have set out?
I'm trying to save for a house. Right now I'm renting, and it seems like all of my friends in my age group are buying houses now, so I'm trying to do that as well.
Don't go look at them. Who cares about them? Let's talk about you. Are you going to stay in New Hampshire? Or are you going to what if like life changes? What if all of a sudden you get a great job offer somewhere else in a warmer climate?
Yeah, that's true. I do work for the government right now, so it's anywhere. There's jobs available everywhere all the time,
So, how important is it for you to have the flexibility of being a renter right now?
It's not that important. I guess to me, renting is just throwing money away.
Can I just take issue with that? I know a lot of people think that. I don't think of rent as throwing your money away. It kind of depends how much you're paying in rent. So what is the amount that you're paying for rent?
$800.
Okay. So I would suggest that at $800 a month, you are essentially, you're paying for your overhead, your housing, and you're also preserving a lot of options in the future. It's very cheap to have $800 a month in rent, right?
Yeah.
And if you were to,
with you being in New York, you would know.
Yeah. When you think about what a house would cost, a house that you would want to buy, how much would it cost?
My upper limit would be probably $225, $250.
Okay, $250. So you got to save 50 grand for a down payment.
Yeah.
And you'd have to pay for a $200,000 mortgage. And you got, taxes and insurance and all that stuff. So, you'd be paying a lot more than $800 a month, right? So that's something to at least consider. So I would say this about your three-pronged plan. Oh, let me ask you one other question. Sorry. Do you have an emergency reserve fund, just some money that's sitting around in boring savings?
I do. It's probably not the full 6 months, but it's probably three.
Okay, 3 months. Okay. So this is what I would say. Right now, I would shift your priorities a bit. You're putting away a lot of money into your retirement account, which is great. However, I would do this. I would pull back on the amount of money I was saving for retirement. You could put 10% away. It's fine. And I would shift the remaining amount and start paying down your credit card as aggressively as possible. And the reason I would say that is that the whole point of saving for retirement is you're trying to really maximize your return in the future so that you've got a bunch of money saved and that the rate of return you earn is better than the rate of inflation. And all of that is good stuff. But it's really impossible for me to come up with an investment scenario where I could guarantee you a 12% return, which is exactly what you would be getting if you paid down that credit card. You would be locking in a 12% return without any risk. So what I would do is I'd pull back on the money you're saving for retirement. I would, again, I would keep it at 10%. You're young, that's fine. I would pay off the credit card debt as quickly as I can. I would look very carefully at, I wouldn't be saving for a house until I paid off the credit card and the car loan. Because as soon as that credit card bill is paid off, I want to shift the extra money that you were putting to your credit card, and I would want you to pay down your car loan. Then, once that debt is eradicated, you can maybe put your retirement savings up a little bit, but you want to then beef up your emergency reserve fund, get that to your 6-month level. And now, then you're going to start to say, okay, that'll take a year or so, whatever. Then you start to think about, do I really want to buy a house? I really think that this is an important thing for you to contemplate, which is instead of saying I'm throwing my money down the drain, you could say I am renting to preserve the options that I have. And if you think that it's more important for you to have the option of owning your home, then that's great. You can put money into that house fund. If you think that it's better to have an option of retiring earlier because you're saving more for retirement, that's great. But I think it demands a little bit more attention than all my friends are doing it and I don't want to throw my money away. You're not throwing your money away. You would be throwing your money away if you said to me, I'm paying $4,000 a month in rent and I could be buying something that would cost me $2,200 a month. But at this level, I think it's perfectly reasonable for you in the next couple of years to get rid of the consumer debt, get that emergency reserve fund beefed up, then max out that retirement account, and then start saving for a house. Tom, thank you so much for calling. You are listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back with Jill on Money. I love that cool bass. Is that manufactured bass or is that real bass? It is? How can you tell? All right. Mark says he can hear the fingers. Who knows? Anyway, that's our great music by Joel Goodman, who we love. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And maybe you're mysteriously contemplating what to do with your own retirement plan. Maybe you're wondering about your education funding. Maybe you're worrying about something really simple like, hey, what am I going to do with my estate plan now that I don't have to pay any estate taxes? What if you bought an expensive insurance policy years ago to pay for estate taxes, and now there are no estate taxes. What should you do? I don't even know the answer to that, but I like the question. I think I'm going to research that. That's a good article idea for myself. Just give us a holler. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And if you've missed any of our previous shows, just hop onto the website, jillonmoney.com, and we will be happy to help you out in any way we can. All right. Next up, we've got Erin from Albuquerque. Hello, Erin. Welcome to the show. What can I do for you?
Hi. So I'm kind of worried about my credit score and when I should start rebuilding it because I'm going through a divorce right now.
Oh, I hate the bastard. I hate that bastard. I'm on your side. I mean, I'm one of those friends that's like doesn't even matter. I've never been the kind of friend who says there's two sides to a story. I once got a greeting card after I went through a divorce, and it was on the front. It said there are two sides to the divorce, and it opens up and it says yours and the blank holes. Fill in the blank. Okay, so tell me what happened with your credit score. Is this as a result of the irresponsible soon-to-be ex?
A little bit. So he kept really strong control of the finances because he thought I wasn't competent to handle them. So he ended up spending, I think, like $50,000 on credit cards.
Oy.
Yeah, that I didn't know about. And then when we divorced, he took my name off of all of his cards. So my credit score just kind of went straight down.
Oh, my God. Okay. So you're divorced now, right?
We're working on it.
Okay.
So we're divorcing.
Okay. And do you have outstanding credit in your own name, or were these is this a joint? Okay. So tell me what's going on right now. Like in your name, what is outstanding for credit card debt?
I have about $5,000 in my name.
Uh-huh.
And that's about it.
Okay. And the other, was there a joint credit card?
They were his accounts, and he added my name to them. And then once I moved out and said we're getting a divorce, he took my name off them.
Okay. Well, I mean, he kind of screwed you in a lot of ways because putting your name on that linked your credit records, having you as the additional signer. But that said, so you do have you have $5,000 in debt in your name. And tell me what has happened to your credit score. It's gone from what to what?
I think it went from like 702 to 5 something.
Ay. Do you need to borrow money anytime soon? Do you need are you going to buy a house? Do you own a house?
I'm in an apartment right now. Mm-hmm. We're arguing over the house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to borrow anything like immediately, but I am a grad student, so I'm not ruling out the possibility that I might need to take out a loan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even though I have a really good scholarship right now.
So what's the tell me, do you have money that's in a savings account? Do you have any assets right now?
No, that kind of all got eaten.
Okay.
Got eaten up.
And there's a house that is jointly owned?
Yes.
And how much is the house worth?
I think $120,000.
And is there a mortgage on that house?
Yes.
And how much is the mortgage?
I don't know.
Probably less than $100,000, do you think?
Maybe.
Okay.
He never told me about it.
But you co-signed it?
He signed the mortgage, and then we quick deeded so that we both are on the deed, but he has the mortgage.
All right. Well, now it's time to screw him right back, because that is like the best news you've given me in this whole call. He really so you understand what happened here. He signed the house over to you. There's no way backing out of that. He did it. So that means you are due half the equity in the house, no matter what. So that's fine because he's going to owe you something. So whether he stays in it or not, I presume you have a decent lawyer who can help you with this, but you're going to get a few bucks that will help you pay down that credit card debt. In the meantime, to kind of show the credit agencies that you are capable and able to take on debt, what you do need to do is make regular payments on that credit card debt that's in your name. You must do that.
That's my New Year's resolution.
Yeah. That's your, I mean, do you have any income? Because it sounds like you don't. Yeah, you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is no matter what, allocate at least the minimum and maybe a little bit more than the minimum payment. And what I would do is I would set up an automatic transfer out of your bank account to make sure you make the minimum payment every single month. And if you can, a little bit more. The way to rebuild credit is simply to pay your bills on time. And that's the best thing you can do right now, which is don't ever fall behind on this $5,000. You will find quickly, I believe, that you will be able to rebuild your credit. It may not happen in the moment you need to, let's say, borrow for a home loan, but no one's shutting your credit off as long as you start to rebuild your credit. So make those payments. Don't take on new debt if you can. And if anything else, like a utility bill, you have to pay that on time, like all those pieces. If you pay your credit on time, you pay your bills on time, I think it accounts for about a third of your credit score. So you might as well make that your priority.
All right. Simple things.
Yeah. And so and make sure, and obviously your attorney knows this, your divorce attorney, but like you just want to make sure that all of your financial obligations that are associated with this guy are ended very quickly. You know what's weird? I'm talking to you, Aaron, and I'm thinking about a friend of mine who once said to me that financial infidelity is pretty close to any other marital infidelity. And this was a case of a friend of mine whose wife went out and ran up a ton of debt behind his back. And he freaked out. And he said, if she slept with someone else, I think I'd feel really awful. But this feels almost worse. It's not even a crime of passion. It's just like annoyingly hurtful for no particular reason. I don't know about that. I think financial is easier than the other kind, but that's just my 2 cents. Aaron, good luck. Pay that bill off as quickly as you can. Everyone else listening, if you are married, do not put your name of your spouse. Don't have credit cards in your own name. Okay? That way, these kinds of incidents cannot occur. And if you're the type of person who says, my spouse just handles everything, I understand that that's an allocation of labor, but it doesn't mean that you can abdicate your responsibility for understanding what's going on. You should know what is going on. Do not, at no time in your life should you say, I don't know, my husband, my wife handles that. So if the best thing I can tell you from this story for everyone else listening is that it's a good lesson that hopefully Erin it's not going to kill her too much in terms of the actual financial impact. The credit score thing is a drag, but don't put your assets in each other's names or your liabilities in each other's names without understanding what you're doing. And don't hand over the reins of your financial life without really, it's okay. Again, you understand the allocation of labor. That's one thing. But don't hand over your financial life without knowing what's going on. Good luck to our Aaron in Albuquerque. Ay. All right. You're listening to Jill on Money. 855-411-JILL is our phone number, and our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. Give us a holler. We want to help you out. We'll be right back.
Have a finance question? There are many ways to reach the show. You can call anytime at 855-411-JILL, send an email to askjill@jillonmoney.com, or tweet a question on Twitter using the handle @JillOnMoney. Just use the hashtag AskJill.
You're back with Jill on Money, and it's so funny. In the beginning of the year, I love getting this slew of questions all about your financial life. I have a feeling, Mark, that it has a lot to do with just people feeling like I got to wrap my arms around what happened in my financial life last year. They're looking ahead. It's tax season. All of those things are great. And I encourage you to do that. But I also encourage you to do that all year round. And it doesn't mean you have to do it every day, because I don't want you to become one of these insane maniacs that's checking your retirement accounts every day. Don't have to do that. But it's not a bad thing to sort of say, hey, where do I stand at least once a year, maybe twice a year, and quarterly, look at your investment accounts. If you have not checked the box in your retirement account to do automatic rebalancing, you should do that. That'll just make sure that you're consistently, keeping that allocation in check with your risk tolerance. And, it also does keep you on track for your various goals. I was just interviewed by someone who asked me whether or not the estate planning business is just about to fall apart because of the change in the tax laws. And I said, gosh, I hope not. Because we still hear from so many of you where you're saying last year's financial resolution was to get your wills done and you haven't done it. So stay on track. That's it. Just pay attention. Try to do it a couple times a year. Where are we? What's outstanding? And figure out what you need to do. All right. If you've got a financial question, you can do a couple of things. You can just go onto our website, jillonmoney.com. And when you get there, you contact us, click on it. Or you can just send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. From Susan, the subject is retirement accounts. What type of account would you recommend for the self-employed? My sons have their own construction business, so no retirement plan. Where and what would you suggest for them? Well, it kind of depends on how big a business they have. Of course, there is the sort of easiest thing to do, which is open up an IRA account. I don't know if they've got employees or not, but that's what, if you're an individual, that's easy to do, $5,500 a year. Okay, now, what if you want something else? You can open up something called a simplified employee pension, a SEP IRA. This is actually a really nice way for you to save a bunch of money, as much as 25% of your net self-employment income. And can't be a Roth, has to be that pre-tax contribution, but that will be a very easy way for you to save money. It kind of looks like an IRA. It just allows you to put more money away. Let me just look up what that limit is. I have to see. I think it's $55,000. Yes. So 401k, you can put $18,500. If you have a SEP IRA, then you're getting to put your money away up to $55,000 in 2018. You can also open up actually a 401k for yourself, a solo 401k, same deal. You get $55,000 in 2018. It depends, of course, if you have employees, if your kids have employees in their firms, because some of these plans actually require you to put money away for your employees. And maybe if they don't have a ton of money to put away for themselves, and they don't have, and they have some employees and they would like to create a plan for their employees, there's something called a simple retirement account. You can put away $12,500 this year. And, it's a pretty easy way to create a plan for your employees. Now, let's just say it's your two sons and they are cranking. They're making tons and tons and tons of money. And it's just the two of them, no employees. Maybe what they should do is they should create a retirement plan with a 401k for themselves, but then also put in something called a defined benefit plan. That's sort of like your own pension plan. And a lot of small businesses that have not so many employees, and it's often in a family business, they will actually have an amazing ability to sock away money in a defined benefit plan. So, for example, a defined benefit plan in 2018, you know how much money you can put away? It's amazing. $220,000 pre-tax, guys. Now, I know, I don't know, right? Because that sounds like just an incredible amount of money, and I understand that most people can't do that. But if your sons have this huge business and it works, oh my gosh, this is really something that can be a tremendous way to start to put money away for yourselves, especially if they're young. And again, if they don't have a ton of employees, it can work. So lots of different choices. If you want to give me a shout back after you hear this and you want to know which is the best for them, let me know. But again, we really want people to try to create as much of a pathway towards retirement as possible. We know from all the research that the people who are saving for retirement are ones who actually have plans, who have their own plans, or whether if their employer offers a plan. So, also if you feel like you want to be nice to your employees, or they feel like they want to be nice to their employees, this is also a really nice way to reward those employees. So I would encourage you to do that. Okay. All right. What's my time, man? Okay. Here's a question from Alan in California. I worked at a store for 4 years. I got a 401k. I maxed out the percentage. I've got $6,000 in my 401k. I'm 26. Okay, so here's the question. The question is, should I roll it over to a traditional IRA or a rollover Roth 401k or a Roth IRA? I'm a student. I go to Cal Poly full time. I don't have an employer to roll it over to that. Okay, so Alan, first thing that you're going to do is the first step is take the old 401k, roll it over into an IRA rollover account. Do that. Next, do you have money to pay the tax that would be due on that account if you pulled the money out? So if you pulled that $5,000 out, if you can pay the tax that's due with money outside of your retirement account, you can convert it. If not, keep it as is. All right? So good luck, and thanks for writing in. You're listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. That's our phone number. Our email address, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
The cure to your financial problems could be just a phone call away. 855-411-JILL is the number to dial. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. Do I sound like I'm upbeat today? I am, because I have a Starbucks Venti Americano with an extra shot, which means 4 shots. And it is big. But, hey, I got to make this exciting and interesting and fun for you, because sometimes money can be a little boring. I know it. All right. Let's talk. Let's do some emails, because this is one way that we can really stay in touch with the shy people out there. Remember, if you do want to give us a holler, there's a couple ways to get in touch with us. 855-411-JILL. That's our phone number. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. Doug writes that he is retired from a Washington state job, which he retired back in 2014. He was rehired by his employer part-time because they didn't want me to quit. This is so funny. I can receive my pension as long as I do not exceed 867 hours a year. My pension is about $1,900 a month. I also receive Social Security, $1,600 a month for about 6 months per year. In my part-time state job, I earn about $27,000 a year. Here's my question. Should I start up an investment into the Washington State Deferred Compensation Program? I already spent my previous DCP investment of $100,000 when my wife and I went to grad school from 2012 to 2014. My personal orientation is to save money, although I have lived on the edge for most of my life. Oy vey. I'll probably work for the state for another 2 to 5 years. My work is not quite done. That's cool. Okay, Doug, I don't know a lot of other stuff that's going on, but here's what I would say. If you are looking at another 2 to 5 years, one of the things I would very much encourage you to do is, I know you said you lived on the edge. I would really want you to save some money outside of retirement accounts, money that has already been taxed. And I think that, if you're thinking about, you won't be retiring until you're 70 or 70 half or 71, one of the nice things that you could have would be a little nest egg of money that's already been taxed, a little liquidity. So what I would say is this. I would look to beef up my out of retirement, non-retirement savings to a decent level. I mean, I get it. You have cash flow, but even that, I would think that you still want to have extra money. So I would try to save up 1 year of expenses before you retire, at least 1 year. If you are able to do that, one thing that you might want to consider is then perhaps putting some money instead of in a retirement account. Maybe you want to put it in a Roth account. I don't know. I have to look. I have to see what else you got going there. But then you could sort of supplement your retirement savings. The thing that's interesting, by the way, is that if you are contributing, say at age, at 70 and a half, that's the moment where you're forced to take your required distributions from your retirement account, unless you're working and actively contributing into a plan. So I would definitely do at least a little bit of that so you're not forced to pull money out of that retirement account. So I say build up a little liquidity, and then after you've done that, I think that's when you may want to use the retirement account. Okay? So I hope that helps. All right. I got another one here. Hang on. Here we go. This is from Deborah, who is in Rhode Island. And Deborah's 64, and she will turn 65 on January 7th. So she just turned 65. And she will retire at the end of this year. Deborah has a SEP account at work, and it's held at Merrill Lynch. And she says, I just signed over control of this account upon my retirement to Merrill Lynch. 65% equities, 25% fixed, the rest in cash. I have around $210,000 in this account. The only debt I have is a car loan. It's going to be paid off at the end of the year. I make about $42,000 a year. I contribute 17% of my salary into retirement, match 3%. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? I'm married and my husband is retired. I'm in good health. Do I need Merrill? I enjoy your weekend program. If you need any other info, let me know. Okay, Deborah, here's the deal. You're not doing, it sounds like your retirement account and putting money in and working and all that is so terrific. However, what I think would be better is that you do this yourself. Merrill Lynch is now just providing you with a very expensive asset allocation plan. And I actually think that you're probably a little bit too heavily invested in equities. So what I would do is I would, instead of giving Merrill Lynch control, I would take back control of that. And I would move the account outside of Merrill. I don't know if you're still going to be contributing or not, but I'm not sure. I don't know what you're paying for these folks, and I don't know if you have to keep it at Merrill. But at the very least, if you have to keep it at Merrill, don't pay for anything. Put it in index funds. Don't give anyone control, and consider pulling your risk back a little bit, especially if you think you're going to need to tap into that money in a year from now. So I think great saving, gold star for that. Probably don't need Merrill Lynch, but if you have to stay at Merrill because that's where the SEP account is, then make sure you use very cheap index funds. If you don't have to stay at Merrill, then check out TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, any of those places. All right? Thank you very much for writing. And you are listening to Jill on Money. Our phone number here is 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
All right. If you've got a financial question, Mark is nudging me like crazy. And he's saying, people have a hard time remembering the email address, which is askjill@jillonmoney.com. I think I've got a lot more respect for you, but Mark thinks that you can't remember that. But if you can't remember that, don't worry. Just go to our website. Okay, so the website is, ready? It's very important to remember this, jillonmoney.com. Oh my God, you did it. Isn't that fabulous? Jillonmoney.com. And the easiest thing that you can do is when you go onto that website, you can submit a question from there. So everything you want is at Jill on Money, essentially. Now, we've just converted this. We've just written this brandy new, converted the website, and we're trying to put you at the top of this, right? So if you want to contact us, there's a form to contact us. We're going to be adding some stuff to this website. But if you see something noticeably missing, let us know. And, by the way, we have some resources there, but if there's maybe we can beef it up with some different kinds of calculators. We have different calculators that we think have they all been tested out, Mark? Oh, look, you've done it. It's so good. You're so smart. So check it out. If there's something that you come upon that we should put on the website, let us know. Okay, JillOnMoney.com. Where am I, Mark? All right. Here's a question that comes from Nancy. Can money be transferred from an IRA to a Roth IRA after retirement if you're not working? The answer is yes. You can convert a traditional into a Roth, but you, of course, have to pay the taxes on whatever is converted in. And the good news is that after retirement, you may be in a lower tax bracket, so it's a good time to convert. The bad news is that usually whatever taxes are due, the best place to pay for that would be out of your non-retirement assets. So a lot of people have a hard time doing this in retirement because they say, oh, gosh, all my money's in retirement. So don't use your retirement assets to do it. Pay with it with non-retirement assets, and yes, you can go ahead and convert it. Okay, now stay tuned. We've got a great second hour guest. It's Justin Land. We're going to do a little bond boot camp. Go check out JillOnMoney.com during the break, and when we return, you get ready. You're going to learn everything you need to know about bonds. 855-411-JILL. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
All right, it's hour number 2 of Jill on Money. I know what you did between hour number 1 and hour number 2. You went to our new website. Go tell us what you think, or wait till the next break, of course. But if you go to JillOnMoney.com, you will see how hard Mark, the best executive producer in the world, worked on this website with our friend, the Mad Russian, Joe. He's so not a Mad Russian, but I just like saying it. He's just not, but we love him. They did a beautiful job with this. You'll also see co-starring Mohammed El Arian on the front door. I love it, Mark. I really do. It looks awesome. And you can see we've got a bunch of stuff there under Watch, which you can see videos. We're going to start shooting some in-studio videos, aren't we, Mark? Where's my banner here? So we're going to do that. We got my TV segments up. I've been on TV a lot because there's a lot of news in the financial world. Videos from the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards. You can read columns. You can listen to this show. You can listen to our podcast, Better Off. You know what I do have to do? I think we should freshen up our frequently asked questions / resources. Add to them. Why don't you guys tell us what you want? Like, go over to the resource section. Help us out. See what we can do. We can beef it up a little bit. We can put more stuff on there, right? So we'll find it for you. Okay. So check it out. It's Jill on Money. Okay, for the interview segment, we have a wonderful guest and a perfectly timed guest, Justin Land, who is really like the bond guru. He is director of tax-exempt management at a company called Wasmer, Schroeder Company. He's located down in Florida, but he loves bonds. He hearts bonds. And we are ready to do a little bond boot camp with him to help you understand what's going on in the bond market. So we start our interview by asking Justin, what is the best financial, money, or career decision that you've made in your life?
That's a good question. The best financial decision I've ever made was to pre-purchased my kids' college education in the state of Florida.
Oh,
So they have a plan where at birth you can pay for their education at today's rates, and it guarantees, regardless of the cost in the future, what they will get. So with the rising rates of college tuition, I think I'm going to annualize something like 12 or 13%.
that's amazing. Wow. And do you have to attend Florida schools?
You have to attend a Florida public school.
Okay. That seems reasonable.
And there are plenty, and there are great schools there.
Did you attend a Florida public school?
I did. I went to Florida State.
All right, wait a second. Which one is that? Is that the Gator or
That's the Seminole.
the Seminole? Okay. All right. I can see you got a little insulted by that.
No, although my father is a Gator, so,
All right.
you know.
So we have brought you on the program because you are the Director of Tax Exempt Management at Wasmer, Schroeder Company. But really, you are a bond genius. And I'm always struck by how many times people will send us emails. They don't really get bonds. And even though they sort of say, oh, they're safe, I was hoping that you could help us through a little bond boot camp. First, by explaining in a simple way, what is a bond?
A bond is a debt obligation. It's just a loan that you can buy and sell like a stock.
So it's like an IOU. It has a term, usually,
Correct,
right?
correct.
And there's a promise of a certain amount of interest paid, usually a couple times a year, right?
Yes.
Or sometimes not at all. And we'll get to that in a second. And what I think is confusing to people is this idea of, well, what is the coupon, the stated interest rate on that bond versus what's the actual yield you're getting? Can you explain that a little bit?
That is the thing that hangs people up the most. So as you mentioned, most every bond has a maturity. And this is unlike virtually every other investment in that you know when you're going to get your money back. You don't know what the price of Google will be in 10 years, but I can tell you to the day when you will get your money back on a bond. And in the meantime, you earn interest. And this is where the confusing part comes. So there's a calculation called yield, which is effectively just the rate of return if you hold the bond to maturity. If there's one thing today people need to remember, it's that when the price of a bond goes up, the yield goes down. And if the yield goes up, the price goes down. And all that means is if I'm going to pay you $10 a year for 10 years, if you pay $1 for that stream of cash flow, your rate of return is huge. If you pay $90 for that stream of cash flow, it's not great. What I see out there a lot of times is people being told about the cash flow on their bond and less about the yield on their bond. And in this rate environment where interest rates are so low, there are many bonds selling at very large premiums. So the coupon may be 5%, but your rate of return might only be 1.5% or 2%.
So I think let's stop for a second because I think you're exactly right that someone says, oh, I just got this bond that it's yielding 8%. And I always sort of, creak my head and say, that must be one risky bond if you're going to get 8%.
Yep. And so with more potential return is more risk. So you have a very riskless investment like a 1 week T-bill and you get paid almost nothing on it. And then there are a few bonds out there yielding 8 or 10%, but that in my mind means the market is not confident that they will pay you back. So all the bond math works only if you get paid.
And right, if you don't get your money back, if the company goes broke, if the municipality declares bankruptcy, if Puerto Rico can't pay back $74 billion worth of bonds, then you can, whatever that stated rate was, who cares, right?
Correct.
Okay, now let's go back a little bit because you said that bond prices can fluctuate. And I think that a lot of people don't quite get why that is. In other words, I thought I was going to get my money back. I thought I had the stated interest. So can you just describe why would the price of a bond fluctuate?
Sure. So that yield that's quoted assumes you're holding that bond to maturity. And at any other time, if you decide to sell before that, the rate of return can be higher or lower. And so that's a great question. Why do interest rates go up and down? There's short-term factors when President Trump was elected, there was a belief that he would reinvigorate the economy. We'd have a lot of growth that would cause a lot more inflation. And so we saw interest rates go up in expectation that inflation would rise. Inflation is kind of the killer of a bond.
Right, because you have the stated amount of money you're receiving every year, and if inflation's rising, it's eating into that stated amount.
Correct.
Okay.
So over long periods of time, interest rates move based on expected inflation. What we've seen since the financial crisis is very, very low inflation. Consequently, we've had very low interest rates for 10 years, despite virtually everyone out there saying interest rates are going to go up. They really haven't.
We'll get back to our interview with Justin Land in just a moment. But while we go to break, go check out the new website. Tell us what we need to do to beef up our resource section. Come on, check it out. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
Well, you're back with Jill on Money. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Mark Talercio is the executive producer, and he's running things behind the glass. He keeps saying that he will get on mic this year in 2018, and yet haven't heard his voice. Haven't heard your dulcet tones, Mark. He says it's coming. I don't know. Maybe it will be. He basically has to figure out how to turn the microphone on in his on his side of the studio. Okay. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. If you have a financial question, send us an email. Ask Jill@jillonmoney.com. Or you can give us a call, 855-411-JILL. You can tweet at us at @JillOnMoney, and we'll get to you. Okay. Last week and last couple of weeks, we've gotten some more data out about inflation. And while we saw a tick up in inflation, it's still really low. And that seems like a good thing. Like, we should want low inflation because low inflation means prices are not rising so quickly. That seems good, except if it's too low, the Fed doesn't like that. And one of the reasons that we brought our guest Justin Land on the show is we want to talk about not just interest rates and bonds, but how inflation factors in. So in this segment, I'm asking Justin why, in fact, inflation remains so low. Do you think that there is something that has really changed in the economy around why inflation remains so low?
It's a complex question. Obviously, there are very smart people working on it.
Well, I got a smart guy right here. This is perfect.
So I have my own theories, and it comes down to a few key issues. One is demographics. The population of the country is growing very slowly, less than 1% a year, and the population is aging. I read somewhere that I believe age 47 is your peak spending year.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. Age 47 is your peak spending year.
Yes. So you're getting close to the peak of your earning power.
Right.
Your kids are in college. You have all the bills out there.
Uh-huh.
Once you hit age 65, your spending falls by about 1% a year.
Really?
So
Even include if you put health care increases?
Yeah. You paid off liabilities. You don't have your home mortgage anymore. All these things. You slow down and don't do as much maybe because of physical issues.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, everyone's different, but in bulk. But what that means is if the population is aging and the baby boomers are beginning to retire, they're going to incrementally spend a little bit less than they could before. They're on fixed incomes.
Mm-hmm.
They're not working anymore. And all that reduction in demand, and you see it in Japan, which has a much worse problem. They actually have a declining population and much older. They can't get inflation no matter what. The second piece of it is what I call the deflationary effects of technology. There are two parts. One, every single industry now is heavily influenced by technology. It's lowering costs, it's increasing productivity. And two, we now have products that for the first time in human history have infinite supply. So before I came up to New York, I went on my iPad and I bought a Kindle book on Amazon. And if they sell 1 million more of those books, it's not going to cost them anymore. They don't have to print the book and deliver it and all of that. And we have more and more products out there that there's no supply constraint. And we've never had that in history. So if people get a raise, they may be spending it on, renting a movie on Apple TV, or getting another Kindle book, or downloading a new song, or buying a new video game, or all these things that have effectively infinite supply.
Well, given that environment, that we're in this low inflation environment, I guess that the question would be, are the millennials going to come up and fill the gap? It's now the largest generation. Will they fill the gap, or are there certain things that are constraining them, whether it's the overhang of student loan debt, or I don't even know. But is this a weird interim period until they get going, or do you think that this is a substantially different time that really is going to be lower inflation for the foreseeable future?
I think the things to consider about the millennials is when they hit their peak earning power. So that's probably at least a decade or more away. I think it's what they spend their money on. If they spend differently than their parents and grandparents, and they're spending more on iPhone apps and things like that, that's not going to cause inflation. And then how many children do millennials decide to have? Because if the birth rate stays low, if you don't have more consumers, it's hard to get more inflation and more net demand. I think they're going to be a little bit more hesitant about buying that first home, or maybe they don't reach quite as much for that home. I've read articles, and I know millennials, I think they're more focused on experience as opposed to things.
We'll see.
We'll see. Once you get that raise and the next raise and the next raise, then, I'll just buy this now, or I'll just do that.
Right. I was really psyched to use Zipcar or Uber, but now I live in the burbs and I need a car. So that could be a difference. So if we presume that low inflation is likely to continue, at least for the near-ish term, what does that do to a bond investor's outlook? What should we be looking for in our bond portfolios?
I think that investing in bonds provides two main things. Is stability, so to offset the fluctuations, what I'll call, of risk assets, stocks or hedge funds or commodities or all these other things you can invest in. So it's your anchor. It's your sleep well at night money is what bonds are for. And secondly, they provide predictable cash flow, and that's why retirees like bonds so much. I know exactly how much I'm going to get every single year, and so I can budget accordingly. I think people make the mistake in this rate environment, and have for about a decade now, of sometimes trying to reach for too much yield and talking about your 8% bond, and they really don't understand what they're getting into. High yield bonds can be a great investment, but you need to think of them very differently than your normal U.S. Treasury or high-quality corporate bond or municipal bond. You have to think of them more like an equity-like investment as opposed to a bond-like investment.
So if I'm looking at my bond investments and I have a little sliver of junk bonds and or high-yield bonds, showing my age that I call them what they are junk, what do you think is an appropriate balance if a total bond portfolio, let's just play it out. We've got 40% in bonds and 60% in stocks, or 70, let's do 70-30, a growth-ish kind of outlook. 30% in bonds. Of that bond portfolio, for the 40-year-old who's saving for retirement, what percentage do you think is a fair-ish percentage to have allocated into the high-yield stuff? Just so you get a little juice but not bring your whole position down.
I'm going to answer that question in two ways. One, I would say on the municipal bond side, so if it's in a non-tax protected account like a 401k, I think the percentage should be a bit higher, maybe 20 or 25%. And the reason for that is the rate of defaults of even low-rated and below investment grade municipal bonds is far lower than corporate bonds.
Oh, that's interesting.
So to give some context, a BBB municipal bond has a lower default rate than a AA corporate bond.
Okay. So that's, if you're using municipal bonds, you should know, has a lower default rate. You can kind of push your risk a little bit more on the municipal side simply because there's a lower default rate which means you're more likely to get your money back while you're collecting that extra coupon.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I'm in a tax-deferred account. I'm not going to use a muni. Now I'm looking at a plain old corporate junk fund.
I would put that at a lower number, maybe 10%. And here's why. The correlation of high-yield corporate bonds to equities is very high. So if you have equity exposure already, in some ways you're doubling up.
Mm-hmm.
And like we talked about in the beginning, every bond has a final maturity. So my potential return is capped out in a high-yield corporate bond, whereas if I get it right on the equity side, I theoretically have infinite upside. So I have lots of downside and some upside, or I can take the equity risk of lots of upside and lots of downside, but at least I still have lots of upside.
We'll get back to our interview with Justin Land in just a moment. More of our bond boot camp. If you've got a question about fixed income or some part of your portfolio or anything else on your mind, give us a holler. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger. Have a question? Call or email anytime. 855-411-JILL or ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com.
You're back with Jill on Money. Now, you know that cool music that we use? It's composed by a guy named Joel Goodman. And I was supposed to see him when I was in L.A. for the American Institute of CPA conference a week and a half or so ago. And of course, because of all the cruddy weather in New York, getting out of Kennedy Airport I was massively delayed, and I couldn't meet Joel in person. And I've only talked to him on the phone. So that just completely bummed me out. But anyway, it's super cool music. Love it. Okay, so we are in the midst of your bond boot camp here at the Jill on Money show, and we've got a great guest. His name is Justin Land. And so often you all will ask me questions about buying bonds in your portfolio. And for most of us, we're buying bonds inside of a mutual fund, which is usually inside of a retirement account. Usually with a retirement account, of course, you're buying corporate bonds, ones that bear interest. And outside of a retirement account, you're buying municipal bonds, which are not taxable. So in this segment with Justin Land, we're talking about the difference between owning a bond mutual fund versus an individual bond. Here's more of our interview with Justin Land. I think that a lot of people feel like I don't have the wherewithal to do credit analysis or this kind of like deep dive that you guys do. Is it okay to buy a bond fund? Pluses, minuses, funds versus individual bonds?
I think for larger investors, and I'll say if you're going to allocate $250,000 to $500,000 or more to bonds, then buying individual bonds can work because you can get enough diversification. If you have less money than that, or you're going into something like high yield and junk bonds, I think a fund or an ETF is a better way to go. You have more diversification. You have a bunch of credit analysts looking at everything. I think nowadays investing on your own and buying your own bonds is a dangerous proposition. One, because somebody needs to do the credit work. And two, the transaction costs for trading bonds for an individual versus an institution, whether it's an asset manager, an insurance company, a mutual fund, are far lower. So you're already kind of in the hole just by the transaction costs. So in the municipal bond space, which is one of the more inefficient spaces, the SEC did a study a number of years ago, and the average individual investor pays about a 2% markup to buy a bond.
That's real.
Whereas an institutional investor might pay 0.1 to 0.5%. And that's just buying volume.
Right.
You know, if I buy something from you every day, you're going to give me a better price than if you do it once a year.
I think it's interesting because if you're a municipal bond specialist, as you are, or a bond specialist, you tend to have a lot of thoughts about where interest rates are going, and I assume that plays into the way you make decisions. So what do you think is the path forward? Should the Fed be raising rates quicker than they are doing, given that there is this really low inflationary environment?
The Fed's a tough one right now. The last 10 years have basically blown up every economics textbook. Everyone 10 years ago said when they started quantitative easing, we're going to have runaway inflation and things like that. And we haven't. We've had the exact opposite. I can make the argument that maybe QE caused asset price inflation, stocks, real estate, commodities, all those things, as opposed to of things we buy, a Coca-Cola or an Apple or whatever. And so that concerns me that now we are starting quantitative tightening. And does that mean the opposite thing happens? I don't know. No one knows.
I want an answer.
I am concerned that taking money out of the economy, which is already growing at a pace that no one's really thrilled about.
Yeah, 2.5% or whatever.
That it could be a precursor to our next recession. And I have no idea when we're going to have a recession. We will.
Yes.
I don't think it'll look like the financial crisis. It'll just be a normal recession.
Please, God, I don't want to go through that again.
nor do I. But as one of the portfolio managers I work with says, if our economy can't function on a 1% or 1.5% Fed funds rate, there's something really, really wrong. And the Fed wants to raise rates so that they have some powder dry when the next recession comes. Because if they kept them at zero, what do?
But they are tightening de facto because they're unwinding the bond positions, right? So that is tightening.
That is tightening along with the hiking environment. So we'll see what that means.
Is that what you think is the biggest concern to you right now? If you look at the big macro picture, do you think the Fed is the most likely culprit in causing the next recession?
I don't think so. I think people give the Fed, Congress, presidents a little too much credit for the economy, both good and bad.
In closing, if I am looking at the bond portion of my 401k plan or my IRA that I'm just managing myself, I want to be prudent. Markets are making new highs, Dow 23,000. Do you have some advice for how people should be looking at their bond positions? I fear that we're now long enough away from the financial crisis that people are saying, oh, those bond funds, they don't pay anything. I don't want them. Can you give people a really good reason to make sure they have bonds in their portfolio?
Because bad things happen.
I love that. Bad things do happen.
I don't know when they're going to happen, and they happen. And, the financial crisis was a great teacher in that if people had followed whatever their asset allocation was and whatever their rebalancing plan was and stuck to it, they would have been fine. It's that they said, well, now I'm going all to cash, or now I'm going to change how I invest everything. And so even when the stock market's hitting new highs, stick to whatever plan you have, and it will work in the long run. Because none of us can predict the peak in the stock market, the low in interest rates. Rebalance according to your plan, even if interest rates are low and it's not exciting that you're only earning 1 or 2% on your bonds. Stick to your plan because none of us can predict the future.
Well, thanks so much to Justin Land. What a great interview. He is the bond guru. He's the new bond guru of the Jill on Money Show. His real job is Director of Tax Exempt Management at Wasmer, Schroeder Company. Justin Land, go check him out. And thank you so much for that interview, Justin, because it's really helpful. If you've got a financial question, we've got more on tap. Give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Wondering how to make your money work for you? Get on the line now, 855-411-JILL. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. And by the way, as we sit here and go through our bond bootcamp, I neglected to mention that this is really interesting that we have been noticing slowly but surely this year, bond yields are actually creeping up. the yield on the 10-year Treasury creeping up to 2.5%. And that's interesting. I know a lot of people are really betting that low rates will be persistent this year. Maybe that's true, right? But what we know is that if the economy does start to heat up, that could mean that the Fed starts to raise rates faster than we expect. It could mean that the 10-year Treasury price starts to drop and yields start to rise faster than we expect. All of this is not to say that you should dump out of your bonds. It means that you should be very careful because when you own certain types of bonds, they are more or less sensitive to interest rate increases. So longer term bonds, if you own a 30-year Treasury, the price is going to move more dramatically if Treasury yields start to rise. Okay? So, you might want to keep those maturities to, short to intermediate term. And then as interest rates rise, you can then reinvest and buy better bonds at cheaper prices. Cool, right? All right. Here's a great message. And here's our new submission form. Is this from the new website, Mark? You're so happy. Mark basically said, you see, we redid the website and now we got more inbound inquiries from the website. All right. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But this is from Jill G. And the subject is, how much should we help our 28-year-old son financially? Here goes. It's a long one, so settle in. Dear Jill, we're hopeful you might give us your opinion about the above subject. We have recently learned our son got himself into some serious financial debt, maxing out 2, nearly 3 credit cards. He works in emergency medical services. He clearly lives life above his means. He's been out of our home and on his own since leaving college. He loves his job. He wants to pursue an advanced degree in the medical field. We had a long talk with him about fiscal responsibility and what we should consider doing to help him out just this once, to help him get a better financial standing and hopefully start a new way of thinking and living. All right, you ready for his debt? He owes $16,000 and we have paid off $11,000. We'll leave him the balance to pay back so he has ownership of his financial debacle. Good for him. I mean, good for her. Good for them. Let me just say that because she says we. We considered bankruptcy for him, but we didn't want him to have this burden at such a young age, holding out hope that the very discussion would scare the heck out of him. He's remorseful, mad at himself, enormously embarrassed about the money situation he got himself into. As his parents, we want to just make things better, but know that message will be lost if he doesn't get a clear handle on the severity of his situation and wanting to improve moving forward. They sound like incredibly wise and thoughtful people. That's just my editorial there. Back to the email. We told him he could move home for a finite period of time. Very good. We always like to put a beginning and end date to that. As long as he was enrolled in a program to achieve his PA degree. He would have to surrender his credit cards to us and solely rely on his debit card to pay bills and daily expenses. He's still going to need to work part-time and take out college loans, and we are not footing the bill for schooling again. He's still going to pay us rent, just maybe some money for groceries, which we will put away in his savings unbeknownst to him. Smart. We've also shared with him that if he doesn't put his all into making a change and doing well in this program, which we'll keep tabs on as part of our agreement to help, then all bets are off. He's going to have to move out and deal with the choices he has made. Please comment, if you would, about our concerns and what you think we should do moving forward. We would be most grateful for your insight. It's funny because at this point in our lives, as we entertain the idea of retirement, we thought we were home free, literally. Many thanks for your anticipated reply. Kindest regards, Jill. First of all, Jill G., I think that you are phenomenal. I really do. Mark and I are nodding as we're reading. I'm reading this, and he's nodding, and I'm nodding, because what you've done is you've laid out boundaries, and you've done so in a way with a lot of caring, but also in a way that allows him to grow into this responsibility called adulthood. And I really think a few things that I noticed. One is that you paid off 2/3 of the debt, but not all of it. So you leave him with some pain. I think that's good. I like the idea that you say move home, but move home for a finite period. And here are the rules. You want to comply with the rules? Fine. You're in. You don't want to comply with the rules? You're out. You want us to help you with with school and help you out through this period? Great. I think the only thing that you may want to encourage him to do, and you don't have to do it for him, is to create a cash flow, looking at all the money coming in, all the money going out, and have him really start to get into this process of monitoring himself. You know, it's very easy to do it, like to say, hey, you know what? I've got a trainer at the gym. I show up, I do this exercise with my trainer. But then to shift to, I'm going to take responsibility myself, then that takes an extra bit of work. And so I think that to encourage him, the only other thing I would encourage him to do is keep track of his finances. Lots of apps to do that. You know, maybe he can just use Mint, whatever. I don't care. Jill, you are doing a phenomenal job, and you're helping and you're loving and you're creating what I think will be a financially secure young man. So thanks for that note and good luck. And you are listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. And parents, we'd love to hear from you. I wonder if your feedback is about that note. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back with Jill on Money, and if you've got a financial question, one really easy way to get in touch with us is to send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. If you can't remember that, just remember jillonmoney.com. Head to the website, and you can submit your question right there. How about that? So easy. I did a segment recently on TV about diversification, and that prompted some people to send us some notes. So here is the subject: eggs in one basket, asks Mary. Here's the message. Mary writes, my husband has his retirement accounts in an annuity. He's been retired for 2 years, and it locks in the amount so he won't lose in a stock market crash. My guess is that it's some sort of equity index annuity. Okay, let's put the husbands aside. Now, Mary says, my money is in a traditional 401k through work. I will be working part-time for a few more years. His advisor wants me to take my 401k and roll it in with my husband's account. Good idea, bad idea? Well, how about starting with wrong idea, because there's no way you can roll it into your husband's account. It's your 401k, it's his retirement account, 2 different social security numbers, can't combine them. Forgetting about that technicality, this is a terrible idea. Keep your money in your 401k. I can almost guarantee that it will be a cheaper way for you to proceed. And before you ever think about retiring and putting one more dime with this guy, this financial guy, you will call us back. You will write us back, because I am not certain that that is in your best interest. Remember, a 401k, even if you roll it over into an IRA rollover, already has beautiful tax features. You don't have to pay up for an annuity to do that. And if you're worried about a stock market crash, there are ways to invest your money inside of any rollover account that will help protect you. It is really, really bad idea right here. Okay? So good idea, bad idea? We vote bad idea. Thank you so much for writing, Mary. And thanks so much for listening. That's the end of the show. I want to remind you that if you've got a question, you can give us a holler, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Thanks again to Justin Land for conducting our bond bootcamp today. And check out our website, jillonmoney.com. Tell us what you think. We'll see you next week.